Ay, ay,
Welcome.
ay, ay, ay.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Bobby, we are talking about so many different topics here. Just to pick one would be to say, we should have picked all these other topics too, right?
Right.
But we're already having such a great conversation. We just want to record it,
hmm
right?
hmm
And
Got that
have
right.
that be public so everybody can listen in. Not all the information, because some of the information we can't talk about, right? But say, Lucky, what do you think about this conversation we're having so far? But now it's in public.
Wow. Yeah. Well, there's always a spirit of something that goes over me when we're starting to find something good to talk about. I feel it. I feel it. Hey, there's going to be a lot of good stuff covered today. A lot of, discussion about what AI is and could be. We don't know. It's subjective, but today's going to be some good conversation. Thank you,
Good
Bobby.
conversation. So thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Bob Robinson. I work with multiple new technologies for a living, uh, and a company or organization that has a few dollars. So we get to really deep dive on stuff and see what is the benefits, the advantages, the disadvantages, the challenges, and we spend a lot of time and effort in R&D. So I've worked in different places. The only other place I've worked that I enjoyed this much was working at one of the research institutes, Georgia Tech Research Institute, in fact, where you get to push things not to the leading edge, but to the bleeding edge, right? And over time, as you see technology used in ways that you never imagined, and that is where we at right now. Things are moving at warp speed. The concern is, as we move forward, are we missing some important things? Are we missing some things that will come to make us regret our decisions, business decisions, ethical decisions, because of just the unknown? So even in any industry, no oil company plans an oil spill, but when it happens, good gracious, right? So when you're talking data, the speed of data, a data situation in a very short amount of time can be quite catastrophic. So what's the limits? How do we impose ethics in that situation? Because we know that code is faulty as far as expecting it to be ethical because we are faulty, right? So the best that we can do is the best that we are. And if we take the best that we are, good, better, and different, and put it at warp speed, the results can be interesting.
Yeah.
This is why I love having this podcast and conversation, because Bobby just equated oil spill and data spill in my head, and I just had a visualization of data spill, and I said, "Oh man, at least the oil spill is terrible. Data spill could be far more affecting." And you know what that is reminding me of right away is the fact that we don't even know the data spills that are happening, as in the data leaks that are happening and data leaks that are coming down the pipe. So, for public service announcement purposes, I just want to put it out to the universe and let everybody know that there are people out there collecting your encrypted data. So
Yes.
that way, when the encryption becomes breakable using quantum computing system, they will be able to read all your information. So if you're thinking encryption is safe now, it's safe for you now, but 10 years from now, they can take that encrypted data and break it and make sense of what you have been up to for the last 10 years. And that to me is a data spill that we don't even know is happening at this point, right?
Right.
We're not doing much about it because quantum computing, we can't even fathom where we will be once the encryption is gone. What do we do next? We don't know.
Right.
But we have AI machine learning. That's what we're going to talk about. But
Well, it's interesting. So the United States very recently, um, put some things into place to say we would like to begin using quantum resistant encryption, right?
NIST,
Now,
yep.
so as we start that journey, I think first off, we're too late, but hey, better late than never.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but as we start that journey, now the other questions come into play. For quantum resistant encryption, what does the overhead now do? What does a good baseline machine look like for the average user if we're able to use quantum resistant uh, encryption that is actually functional and that will give us some more longevity before the cost of quantum computing gets to the point where it becomes an affordable option.
Yeah, yeah. And I want
Yeah.
to, just put it out there like this podcast is supposed to be uplifting, but at the same time, we're
Hmm.
looking for problems to solve.
Hmm.
And problems
Yeah.
that we need to solve, if we're not looking at it from AI machine learning perspective, as in if AI machine learning was better data processing, right? You forget that label AI machine learning and you call it
Hmm.
data processing, better subject matter expert involvement, and better optimization of this data processing. So that way you're not just optimizing your data for just processing purposes, but you're optimizing it for outcome purposes. That be a subject matter expert that they can tell you this is why you need to have better data processing, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Because some outputs are just not based on return on investment. Some optimization are just needed for these type of purposes. Where not, I'm not talking about overseas actors that are collecting your encrypted data. This encrypted data is being collected here in the United States,
Right,
being stored and served in places where you're thinking like, what are they going to do with
Wow.
encrypted data? Well, it's just sitting in a silo until it's ready to be broken, right?
right.
Um, so before we get and get started and dive deep into it, we want to promote a group called Talent Ascend. And Talent Ascend is a recruiting tool that is very helpful to military veterans, especially because military veterans comes with
Hmm.
type of resumes that are not very openly available for the public. So how do we solve that problem, right? How do we introduce military veterans to the hiring manager in a way that hiring manager will be able to understand what the veterans brings to the table? So today we're excited to introduce you to a revolutionary platform that is changing the game in the recruitment industry. Talents Ascend is utilizing the power of artificial intelligence to improve the recruiting process, and AI has the potential to revolutionize the recruitment by automating repetitive tasks, improving candidate matching, and reducing bias. By leveraging machine learning algorithms, Talents Ascend can analyze large amounts of data, identify the best candidates for a job based on the candidate's skills, experience, and qualification. This eliminates the use of the resume, cover letter, which is my favorite because I hate cover letters, and application. Another benefit of an AI recruitment is reducing bias, right?
Hmm.
Reducing bias is important to me. I think it should be important to everybody else. That Talent Ascent can help eliminate bias by removing identifying information such as name, gender, and age defining aspects that are typically found on an applications. This can help ensure that candidates are evaluated solely on their qualifications and experience, leading to a more diverse and inclusive workforce. Talent Ascend is an excellent example of how AI can be used to improve the recruitment process by leveraging cutting edge technology and a commitment to diversity and inclusion. They're making it easier for job seekers and hiring managers to find the right fit. So we love Talent Ascent, and there's a little blurb about Talent Ascent. We're going to put it out into the world. Anybody who
Hmm.
needs to hear it, now you have it. Talent Ascent. Go sign up. Let's get back to the AI machine learning.
Yeah, it's a great service, and if you like our content, please like and subscribe. You can listen through the podcast completely, and we also have content on Spotify and other social media. So please, if you want to listen, there's other avenues other than YouTube. Bobby, back to the good stuff.
Well, I also like to explore the idea when you speak about positivity and
Hmm.
doing good things of what is good data computing. What is manipulating data in a way that benefits humanity? What does that look like?
Well, there's a perspective we've talked about, a little bit is, what enables us to make better decisions is one.
Hmm.
It helps us make better decisions that can possibly save lives, increase the way, or change the way we live, improve our standard of living, maybe give us a healthier perspective, a positive perspective, something that, and then there's the other side of it, something that doesn't give us anything, something that is more used to manage populations, state owned AI, state sponsored AI. And so, what's gonna benefit us the most at the end? I think that we have to have, that's a long term discussion. Who, you know, and the reality is this, and you went there just a little bit. When you have AI, is it going to benefit us for it to be centralized, and people, everyone that benefits from AI, like say for example, if we all have some type of encryption that we use, and then all of a sudden now that encryption's weak, everyone's weak, right? Because we're all using the same thing. But if, because we're all centralized, we're using the same common tools. But if we're decentralized, and I look at AI the same way, centralized AI may be a bad thing. Decentralized AI, where everyone owns their own services, their own functions, I think that'll benefit us more in the long run, because I'm afraid. I'm one of those people that is afraid of AI. And until, like you said, ethically, we know what we're dealing with, I'm going to be kind of the pessimist. But
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of positivity in AI and a lot of good things that we could bring to the table. It's just that how the data and the
Mhm.
person that's managing the algorithm, that's where it becomes real.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, I think when it comes to time and space, right, that's all we literally
Hmm.
are, right? We're a cross
Mhm.
function between a time and a space. We occupy a body and we count time in our brains, and that's how we live our life. So it's time and space. So if an AI is able to do better situational awareness for us as an assistant or an
Hmm.
augmenting us to better situational awareness, to occupy the space that we occupy and understand the space around us much better, and then helps us with time saving, right? So give us situational awareness, better time saving. Those are the two components I look at for why AI should be not a luxury, but a definite need. Because
Hmm.
the mother of all innovation is need, and the need that I have is the AI to have give me better situational awareness and also save me time as I do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So AI to assist in personal gain and personal comfort.
Why
Yeah.
not? Why not start
Yeah, yeah,
there?
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's what we would want. Personal,
Right.
I mean,
I
that's a
mean,
good place
personal
to
isn't like
start.
how what does personal mean, right? Like, if
Mhm.
you're at work, are you still a person? Do you still
Mhm.
need that personal comfort and personal space,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
So, even in a private space, even in a personal or commercial or organizational, wherever it is, anywhere we're in the world, even in the space, we need that personal services, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. I also think about the AI that benefits humanity. So, for example, uh, solutions in environmental cleanup, right, or
Hmm.
solutions to affect homeless populations. So, for example, is in some countries they examine the camera data or the camera feeds, and more than several large countries, several large cities examine the data from looking for crime. So in some countries, you jaywalk, the facial recognition knows it's you. It sends you a ticket, and since they're on digital currency, it takes the money right there, right?
Hmm.
But how about same AI uh, is looking at people and observing, is is a crime being committed against them? It calls the police, or are they in distress? Are certain physical things about them saying my person might be having a heart attack? Or identifying where a homeless population is so that if the weather becomes extremely cold, shelters know exactly where to go and get people. So it can go either way. It depends on what we
Hmm.
deem to be acceptable. What is privacy? Because definitely beyond ethics, you talk about privacy laws. So, what's considered a public place? If I'm in my apartment complex and a camera catches something, is that public or private? I don't know. There's a lot of answers to be answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, data acquisition and data pipeline has to be built very carefully because if you look at the healthcare industry and somebody gave you their healthcare
Mhm.
information 10 years ago, can you go ahead and use that just because it's sitting in your database collecting dust?
Right.
Doesn't matter, right? And you
Right.
have that ability to say, yes, I can use it because it's in my database, but it's been given to you by somebody else. And according
Hmm.
to HIPAA, that could be a problem that they can bring up to the court or bring up to the public town square and put you in an
Right.
embarrassment, right?
Right.
So I think if you're looking at it from all these different angles, I always go back to the fact that who it is in your table will dictate how well the product will be.
Right.
So if there's a people and there's a process, and how the technology comes out of at the end of the process is the process you will have based on the people you have on the other side.
Right.
So people, process, technology, PPT, not the PowerPoint.
Mhm. Mhm.
PPT. so, I want to start with that because if you think about where it is we are today and where it is we're heading, one complete positivity that we can guarantee is that amount of hardwares we have, just like data sets will optimize, hardwares are also optimizing. And as the
Mhm.
hardware is optimized, it functions as 3-in-1, 4-in-1, all types of services are happening. So iPhone that has, I don't know, millions of services into one, it will only optimize even more, furthermore, right? Because
Right.
that camera system that you're looking through, it only looks at this point, doesn't do much unless you're looking at the camera using your monitors, right?
Right.
So we need that optimization of hardwares to come together to say like, you don't need to look at your monitor anymore because
Mhm.
that camera that you bought in 1986 it still provides data to a data processing server, and that data processing server is able to detect somebody tripping over a wire, falling down into the ground. Now, is that person needing help or is that an intruder, right? Do I
Right.
call 911 to say come prepared, or do I call the ambulance to come prepared, right?
Right.
So I think this optimization of the hardware piece motivates lots of this conversation because when it comes to software, we think of software as like, okay, this coders and programmers will do that, right? Great. But what happens? The coders and programmers are able to collect and build all this data for you. Now this data is just sitting in the server somewhere and not being, utilized. Well, put the hardware to work. And these hardwares over time are shrinking. As in, uh, some of the cameras that we're buying these days, if you remember back in 2005, you'll have these cameras that are about like this long, right?
Mhm.
But now you have cameras that are like about yay big, they're even talking about putting cameras inside of a human body that's like a size of a grain of rice. Uh, these are all the possibilities that we're seeing. Hardwares are shrinking, they're optimizing, but as they're optimizing, their data is also optimizing. How the data is transferring in between the systems, the devices is also optimizing, right? So if I may, put this out saying the hardware's amount of hardwares we have today will definitely shrink over time, but as it shrinks, you have more problems with privacy, like we just talking
Mhm.
about right here. You will have those privacy issues, and how do you deal with that privacy? Who deals with this privacy, right? How and who and where they deal with that privacy will matter because in European countries they have privacy that is different than in the United States, right? And
Yeah.
who, I mean, if Silicon Valley decides that this is your privacy's worth, we might not have much to say. But if we have a forum where we are able to, you know,
Hmm.
uh, uh, do pushback of privacy regulations that are being very out and open for everybody to manipulate, we might get a better privacy in the future. Because, like I said, a grain of rice size of a camera could do a whole lot of damages that we might not be ready for, even though it's a
Right.
cool technology, right?
Mhm.
I just want to put that out that the privacy matters, but as the optimizations are happening, we have to dive more deep into those privacy concerns and uh, bring the educational aspects to it, bring the awareness to it, but also starts taking action around it because who develops and how they develop it and where they develop it, will matter, because another part of it is that, if your device is being built in China,
Hmm.
your privacy, as much as you can think of it, it's still in danger. Because if you remember one of the
Mhm.
supply chain issues we had recently, where a system that was in the supply chain had its own OS. But
Yes.
now they found out there was another piece of chip inside of that equipment that had its own OS. So
Right.
there's two different OS running inside of a system.
Yeah.
One OS to communicate in China, one OS to communicate with the supply chain.
Right.
Huawei,
Um,
huh?
what a
Yeah.
way!
Yeah. And besides the counterfeit parts that come in, even the legitimate stuff, you don't know what someone's up to. So, for
Mhm.
example, in theory, Alexa, Siri,
Mhm.
Bing, etc.,
You hit it.
they listen for the keyword before they actually send your data. In theory, but how many times have you been in your house and all of a sudden it answered and no one said the keyword? Like
Mhm.
in my house, I've sat here and it'll be like, I'm right on top of that, and I'm like, on top of what? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So let's say if all those things in your house that just listen to you, only listen, they don't see you. Camera aside, it only listens to you. And it was building a profile of you. What would the profile say?
Yep. Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
24 hours a day. What would that profile say?
Yeah.
And then how would they leverage that?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there's I think Facebook has more interest in you than you have on yourself, because I think they have about 5,000 data points on you, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
if I can make past 100 data points about myself, I think I'll be in good shape. But I don't think I have that many.
Yes.
But Facebook definitely has more interest in me than I do in myself.
So, let's say like how the algorithms work on even subscription services, right? You watch one or two shows just to diversify what you watch, and then watch your programming change. You know, I have a thing for Bollywood movies. Everything that comes on my TV became Bollywood, like everything. It was
Mhm.
shows I didn't know existed. I was like, oh, they make
Right.
that
Yep.
too,
Right.
right? So, are they pushing products towards you? Not that you may or may not mind, or are they taking away your choice because I want to see it all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Lucky, please.
No, it's difficult to weigh that balance. We've talked about this before. What is okay? So generationally, this comes down to generations now, or who you are and when you were born. We see this as a problem. Us, we're in our 40s. We didn't necessarily we saw this technology grow from, basic to where we're at now. And to see you have kids now that they're immune to the fact that this technology is taking away who they are, is taking away their rights, their privacy, but they don't care.
They
And
don't care.
so they don't. And so in the future, privacy is going to be like a thought of no, privacy is not privacy. Privacy is help.
Hmm.
We are here to help you. We're here to make decisions for you. You can't make decisions for yourself. And that's where I see it going to a point, and we don't know it because we're enamored by the technology. We it's easier, it's better. Why not just give it up? And that's something that, generation, we see this as a problem. We say, okay, well, privacy. But like you said, it helps us. Siri, Alexa. I've had the same thing where I'm teaching. I'll be in the middle of an explanation about talking about something in the past that I have, because I teach security, and as a security guy, I've done a lot of security stuff. This in the some realms questionable, but you're learning. All of a sudden, Siri perks up every time. Why? They're listening, and it's one of those things that it's happening, but
Right.
who
What
do
are
we
you
go
gonna do?
to? Who do we go to? And that's where I think regulation.
Hmm.
Um, in the U.S., privacy. If you have a privacy concern, you have nowhere to go. I don't want
No.
my name on the website. In the UK, they see I have an issue with privacy, I contact. They have an actual department. They can help me. I
Right.
can remove my information. So in a capitalistic environment, we're going to struggle with AI because Google, the big boys, they're light years ahead of everybody, and they
Right.
already thought these things through, and
Right.
they've been thinking it through. So we're already losing. So how do we win? It's hard. But regulation, I know a few guys are scared. We've talked about it before, where the Elon Musk and they're scared that they started this ball.
Party is not over, boys.
Yeah,
Party
you
is
Yes.
started
ongoing.
it. You started it. So I think that there's a lot to benefit from. But man, what like we started talking earlier, and before we started the podcast, you brought up some great points about what AI is. Does it know if it's lying? And maybe you can talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Does AI is it conscious, or is it the math, or is it the ghost in the code? But can we trust it? I mean, what do you think, Bobby? How do you approach that?
Well, I think because um, we as humans,
Mhm.
our value system is set over time, right? Your parents raise you a certain way.
Mhm.
You have certain experiences. So we're asking something that we turned on with a flip of a switch, just because computationally wise and neural network wise, it can understand a lot of things that we assume that its ethical center is the same as ours. And
Mhm.
can it be? Is it possible? If you told a baby, hey, baby, here's everything I know about ethics, what result can you really expect? Just, so what we know is that from a
Mhm.
black box aspect, that code does write other code, and sometimes that code does something completely unexpected. So it can be anything. In various industries, we've seen it come across, come browse the web, see a new language, and then teach itself that language in
Mhm.
minutes. Right? I wish I had a little AI in me. I'm just saying. but
Yeah.
but what else is it learning? Because there's so much out there,
Mhm.
good and not so good on the internet. Like if you
Yeah.
want to get some great information, go to the internet. If you want to get some absolutely terrible information, go to the
Go to
internet.
the internet.
Mhm.
Right? So there is no validation, peer review on what's on the internet. And then when you say, well, this system knows everything up through 2022. Okay, well, it's a lot of garbage out there since 2022, as well as good,
Mhm.
you know, good solid data. So how do you validate what's out there? Because somewhere in America, I don't know about a lot of other countries. I visited other countries, but I've never lived anywhere another country for more than a couple of years. And in a couple of years, you don't know the country. You're still kind of a tourist, right? And what I'll say is, in America, if you can say something with conviction, people will believe it to be true. And if you keep saying it, then they say it must be true. It can be
Mhm.
completely wrong.
Yep.
It can be something that is not fact based, but and then if you go into anything that doesn't require facts, anything religious or spiritual, people make up stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
The cult of me, right? Can you
Mhm.
imagine the AI cult? I'm sure people would join.
Wow, you just blew my mind. You
Yeah.
just because I always thought of like bad code, in a sense, bad coding, bad algorithm, bad data. But the data could be poisoned not only from the fact that it's bad, but the fact that it's the truth.
Hmm.
You know, we're ugly as
Yes,
humans. And so what would an AI see? Okay, how could it respect life if we don't even respect ourselves?
right,
So how could we expect the code to see past what we are?
right.
Man, you just blew my mind. I got chills, and I just felt like you've taken me to another level.
Yeah.
But I'm
Wow.
I'm going to agree with Lucky on getting the chill. But I also want to point out the prettiest guy in the room is calling the humanity ugly. I mean, come on, man. Like, don't call me ugly because you're the pretty one.
Pretty lucky is what they call them.
Yeah. Hey man, hey, thank you first of all, but man, I live in a different world, you know. You're right about that.
But y'all bring up a very interesting point. What are the things that we don't even know about ourselves that AI has assessed? So there's an old joke that a comedian would tell that if there's a pretty girl and she's crying, they say, "Oh, don't cry." If it's an unattractive girl and she's crying, they say, "Stop that crying," right? But that's just showing how we are as humans. What other vulnerabilities or weaknesses or flaws do we have that we're not even aware of that can be exploited? Facts, right? So
Facts, yeah.
now if I'm trying to create a scenario to lead or to deceive you in some way or to really trigger a certain behavior, right? It's about behavior modification. I want to go from what you thought you wanted to do to what I want you to do. And because in this case, the AI has gathered so much more data about us and human behavior than any one person would know or any group of developers would know. It seems like it becomes that much easier to manipulate, right?
Yeah, I want to hit on so many of those topics that we've been talking about because we before we started this discussion of the podcast and recording, we talked about ethics and we talked about what does it mean to be lied to, or what does it mean to lie, right? And what are truths? I kind of want to take that angle of like, it is challenging. It is challenging, but it's challenging in a sense that this is a new challenge. Once we and here's my premise: as long as I can visualize myself looking back in time, say, well, I was worried about the wrong thing. That's the best outcome. No matter what the outcome is, if the outcome is to say like I was worried about the wrong thing, that's the first outcome I would like to have. And the second part of it is that like, well, it's just silly that how I used to do things. Now I no longer have to do that. That's the second outcome I would like very much, right? And the price that we pay for it, we can measure it sometimes, and sometimes it's just not measurable because of time and the space that has gone by since then. It's not easy to measure. But if we are right about history, history has stopped the day I was born, right? Since then, it's just been my lifetime. So if we look at the history and you look at the human behavior based on what has happened outside of the human body, is what has always given the feedback for the humans to behave in certain ways. So when you take that human and you turn that into a community, what's happening outside the community is what's creating the community inside, right? So it's like that pressurized cylinder. The impact of the environment for the pressurized cylinder is going to cause that cylinder to stay in place, or if you release it a little bit, it will start reacting to the environment outside, right? So what's that outside look like? The outside to us at this point is technology that we are trying to understand how it's able to take two data sets and merge them together, or two zeros and ones, and do faster processing, right? That's outside of us. But internally, we're doing the same, right? But we just call it neurons instead of, your zeros and ones, right? It's your neuron that is firing a millisecond, connecting about hundreds of thousands of neuron nodes from one neuron to another. And computers are kind of trying to mimic that. Say like, how can I go from one keystroke into multiple nodes and have these nodes come back with the outcome, right? So what's happening outside of us is influencing us inside, right? One thing I want to point out, we talked about truth and lies. Well, the truth is the sun does not rise in the east, right? Sun does not rise in the east because the earth is spinning in a direction that sun doesn't care where it is. It's just sun's always been there. It doesn't rise at all. So there's no equation that can make it in a computer system to make it true. We have to make that truth inside of a computer. We have to tell the system that it is the truth that sun rises in the east, according to me.
Right,
right?
based upon our interpretation, based
Hmm.
upon the labels that we put on this reality, right? Whoever
Right.
said
Yeah.
it
So
had to be called the East, right?
because and then this outside information and outside of our ability to manipulate that outside of ourselves is what causes us to say, for example, I'll go a little bit deeper with this. Sun doesn't rise in the east, right? Um, Back in the days when the Earth was flat, at one point the Earth was flat because that's what people believed, and Earth had a Earth that was in the center of the galaxy and solar system, and then the sun was spinning around us, right? Because the sun was serving us, not us serving the sun.
Hmm.
So what kind of technology, what sort of future did that create, right?
Right.
The future that created was like of distrust of the next generation to say like, really, you had me believing for hundreds and thousands of years, and now I have to believe this, the new information that sun is actually a star and it is not even a sun. So another truth is that sun is not actually a sun, it's a star,
Hmm.
right? Based on who you're talking to, they will admit that, right?
Right.
Because if you're looking at from another galaxy, looking into us, and you say there's a star over there and there's an Earth next to it,
Right.
right? So I'm going on about this outside factors to say like, now as we come together closer, what this AIs will be able to do is help us with something that we haven't been able to do for a very long time, which
Hmm.
is to have a ground-based truth that you can split yourself into two, right?
Hmm.
As in, we've always had fractions of population, but now this AI machine learning, especially the internet itself, will be able to have either, I cannot challenge myself to say this, but there's information, there's misinformation, there's disinformation,
Right.
right? Nobody can have the information. Either you're misinformed or disinformed. Whatever the case
Right.
is, you're not in information because you cannot really, as a human, have the truth. Like, information is just not possible for you to be like, this is only one-sided information. Well, information always has another side to it, right?
Hmm.
So what that means for me is that over time, this technology, the outside of us, is pushing us to a point where we will actually divide in two, right? Divide into two is either one part is going to be really big, where we're going to have one side that is very little, and that will always rebel against the big group, right? We are getting there, and we are seeing that division where we're splitting into saying two two side of the things all the time, right? If somebody says Earth is flat at this point, everybody will say Earth is a round shape, right? The information is always going to split into two, but instead of fraction, we're just going to have that separation of like, I just believe this and you believe this. And
Right.
AI will dominate both of the sides, right?
Well,
Because both sides will
yes.
have their AI to force their beliefs more deeper into what they believe. And I'm not talking about flat earthers versus round earthers. I'm just talking about the fact that
Right.
you will have two sides of the information, but now that because the whole world is connected via internet, you will have two sides of beliefs, and AI will reinforce both sides based on how they create that AI for themselves.
And if that is the nature of the AI, if you say prove the Earth is flat, then it is only going to publish information that supports that premise.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
stuck. It's stuck, right?
yeah,
So that and humans are stuck. For example, is we take our belief systems, whatever they may be, and we hold them near and dear to us as personal property. And when you say anything based in fact or not based in fact, we not only take it personally, we will defend it.
hmm,
Pick any religion. When you attack someone's religion, they're ready to fight. Name one religion that has seen their God. It's all
my
faith
religion,
based, right?
my
Yeah.
religion.
So if you say, come right, if you say, show me him right now in the flesh, they couldn't. But regardless of
Oh
the
no, no,
different
no! That
religions,
one we can't do. We can't
yes.
do that one.
But it, but
Nobody has seen him.
but the reaction that you get, right?
Right.
So if a neural network educates itself and now it has a core value set and some beliefs based upon previously determined facts, you think people got an attitude. What about that's a music group, AI with attitude? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's universal that when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I don't care if
That's
you're a
right.
super smart hammer or you're a
Right.
super slow hammer.
Well,
So
yeah, like bias within me is that everything is solvable by AI machine learning, right? And I have to
yes,
always peel myself back, say like, let the humanity work it out. It's not my job, right?
it's not my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my job. I have certain things that I should be doing and certain things I should have to focus on. And one thing that AI does give me hopes in, which frustrates me a lot in life, is that we weren't born into a social contract, right? The
Right.
social contract we've been given is based on the time and space that we were born into and
Mhm.
time and
Yes.
space that we will occupy. So social contract has always been unfair to everybody. Like no
Yeah.
matter what part of history you look at, somebody has always complained about the time and space that they were born into,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And it has
Absolutely.
always been the worst of time and the best of
Hmm.
time, like Mark Twain would say, right?
Right.
So that social contract piece, I think, is becoming far more clear. And I want to hit on the
Mhm.
Lucky's point about the next generation of not seeing privacy. Privacy to us is privacy based on our ancestors' comparison,
Right.
right? Because they have been slowly chipping away at their own privacy. We've been slowly chipping away at our privacy. Privacy
Yes.
has never secured anything. Security never has existed. It's a concept in mind, just like time is. But time
Yes.
is a little bit more real than security is. Security is much more, let's just call it
Personal. Yeah.
personal. It has like
Mhm.
lots of traits that is just not possible to meet. You can never build castle high enough or low into the ground enough to not be attacked by anybody, right? So
Right.
security is just a concept, I would say, but time is what you make out of it, right? Your brain needs it, but how you use it is two different stories. Like how your body and your personality uses two different stories.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the reason I want to say the social contract piece of it is that the next generation will see privacy far different than we will. And I think all the privacies that we have today is sacrifice of other people's privacy, right?
Yes.
As in people have been given away their sacrifice, their privacy based on their sacrifice. We are benefiting with our privacy. Very little that we do have, right? It's a give or take situation. But the next generation will definitely see a value that is not based on privacy, but rather what gives us the humanity, what makes you feel more human, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not getting into some science of metaphysics there, but like I'm looking at it from the perspective of a human brain wants to find pattern continuously,
Hmm.
and social contract and privacy, these are the patterns that we're seeing over and over decaying, right? That the contract that our parents had, as far as retiring early, retiring at a certain age, buying certain homes for certain prices, so on, all these topics of finance and all these little advantages that you had based on the time that you were born in, they're gonna have to start thinking about it differently because they don't have that setup anymore. That setup
Hmm.
has gone away, it's chipped away. So your retirement is not the same anymore. You cannot just keep working for somebody and retire at the end of your lifetime and enjoy a benefit until you're 100. That's not there anymore. So that social contract has changed. So
Right.
your privacy is changing based on the social contract that you no longer have. So
Yes.
what do we do next, right? What we have to figure out is that if you want to understand yourself a little bit more and do more, and once you have that little privacy chipping away, what do you do next? Is you become more dependent on other people to provide you with better services and quicker and faster adaptable personalized services, right?
Mhm.
And how do you afford it? Do you afford it by currency, like as in exchanging money, or do you do that by other means? I'm not there yet. I'm thinking of a cryptocurrency somehow, but AI machine learning capabilities will make this privacy chip away further more. And
Mhm.
Right.
I want to defend privacy, but I just can't because there's nothing to defend here, right? This is just so
Right.
difficult to defend, just like security of a castle that's either built into the ground or built way too high up. There
Right.
isn't
Mhm.
much that we can do. But it's going that way because a lot of the social contract outside of our body is pushing us towards a situation where we will need different types of benefits that a previous generation had one, but they're going to have the next one, which is that further optimization of data processing,
Mhm.
further use cases of hardware, and how do we minimize this hardware and make our life much more humanized, I would say. I think I'm trying to get to that word, but I
Well,
cannot frame it properly. But it's humanizing it.
well, I think what you said is a commentary based upon your generation. And the reason why I say that is because it's good commentary, but the reason why I say that is because for you, that's what's important. For most people,
Hmm.
your generation, it is. But what if I'm from the generation where what's important to me is connection? And since I don't have social skills, the phone is my connection. So now, as you see, I'm a high school kid knocking my teacher out simply because they took my phone away for using it in class,
Oh,
right?
yes, I
You
saw
didn't,
that.
so now, and
Mhm,
it's happening more and more, you didn't just
mhm,
take a phone, you took their connection to the world, or
mhm.
bullying to the point that people harm themselves because that cyber world is real. And I won't
Hmm.
even go into cyber dating because that could drive people. I've seen it drive people crazy. I'd be like, that's not even a real person.
Yep.
you know, so, you know, but they blocked me. I'm like, okay, who cares? But they're quite serious, like really.
Yeah.
So connection, being connected to more data doesn't mean you're connected to good data. Being connected to more influence doesn't mean you're connected to good influence.
Hmm.
Because that virtual world and Meta, they're onto something. They got a way to go. But that virtual world, the fact that I can become an influencer and as an influencer make millions of dollars basically saying, look at me,
Hmm.
that's very different from how many of us may have grown up in past generations. You say, look at me, and they're like, yeah, look at you. But now,
Hmm.
how many subscribers do you have, and how do you monetize that? And now that they're monetizing it, companies have gotten smart. They cut the rates on what they pay them. They reduce the number of hits so that because all they care is about their advertising dollars. So now you have a company who created a format in which they made good money, want to make great money, requiring more influencers to pretend that their life is great. So when you see at least maybe what 3-4 times a year, some influencer decides to unalive themselves, unfortunately, because their very life that they were selling, nobody has that life. Like nobody has that life, right? So I don't know. And you add AI to all of that, I'm just saying, we can make millions.
Yeah.
What does an AI do with $1 million in his bank account?
Right.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with my neighbor just yesterday. I went by and I was reminiscing. I was driving through the old neighborhood, and you're right. We hold things are what we as hold important truths to who we are or ethics of what we hold to be, part of how we were raised and what's important to our lives. That really prevents us from growing in some cases, and seeing, because it's like the old common thing is, no one wants to change the way they do business because the old way works. They're used to it, and we're used to being who we are, and we don't want change. And the new generations, they're gonna see something positive. There could be a lot that they can gain from AI, just medicines and the health, with the health industry. They can design new put together chemicals or medicines that we never had, and they all of a sudden now they go from living 80 years to maybe 180 years, you know?
Mhm.
And the fact is, because they hinged their bet on AI and they didn't care about privacy, where we're so scared the robot's going to turn into Skynet, you know, that we've already got that preconceived bias, that we're
Mhm.
scared, we're preventing ourselves from becoming the next better version of ourselves.
Right.
But it's still scary, it's still, as we are what we are, you know but I totally, I'm happy for the new generation. I mean, they're going to benefit exponentially, because I remember as a kid, I remember having, a phone, and it had a dial, and if I had to dial 9 or 0, it was a horrible day. That was the worst thing we had to worry about, calling somebody and the fact that there was 9 or zeros on the number, right? That's it. Now, call mom. They don't even they have a different world to, that is a different perspective. And so I see that, what we see is scary. The kids that think those old guys, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They don't know what
Yeah.
they're talking about.
But I recall that, and you're correct. I had a relative. The number was 225-6209, and that 09 was like, oh no, yeah, yeah.
You never had the patience for that 9 to
Yeah.
finish. Down. No, it doesn't work that
Your
way.
phone company really hated you if they give you a 9 and 0 on your number.
Right.
I have 666 in my number. I don't know what they think about me, but I have
Wow.
666 in my
Oh
number.
yeah, you're the mark, man. You're the evil guy.
Mhm.
But if we can end this conversation with one agreement, that agreement is that we don't know what the
We
future's
don't know.
gonna have. So I want to go back to what my outcome, the satisfactory outcome is. That my satisfactory outcome was to say I was worrying about the wrong thing. That's
Mhm.
always a good thing for me, as long as I'm worrying about the wrong thing. And as long as the outcome that says it's silly how I can laugh about how hard I had to work to get something done, right? That's always the second outcome that I'm always in favor for. And the third one I want to say is that if I'm able to look down at the generation, excuse me, that sounded really bad when I said I want to look down at the generation. I want to look at the generation that is coming behind me, right? I want to be able to say, they're better off than I am,
Mhm.
right? And that's a sentiment that I want to get away with. Like, I'll get old at one point. I'll definitely want not like how I'm being, turning into that, what is it called? Digital immigrant, right? Because the
Mhm.
digital natives will take over this whole world. And that's what we're talking about, the digital
Yeah.
natives right now. The digital
Yeah.
natives that have been born into the digital systems versus digital immigrants like myself who had to go from cranking a dial to cell phones, or in between the cell phones, we had cordless phone. So when you got the cordless phone, you're just like king of the town, right? You got the cordless phone in your house. You can take that cordless phone anywhere in the house you want to go. Now you have cell phones, So the digital immigrant in me will have to live with the digital natives. But as long as I can say the digital natives are able to enjoy the process rather than to suffer through it the way we are suffering through technology right now, which by the way, is very young compared to all the other technologies, right? I want to say that'll be a third outcome that I can agree on, saying like, yep, that worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I just got an image of Frankenstein. Is that what we're going to put together, or but hopefully, we don't know. I hope the best for what we put together. I wish that we whatever we put together, that we can all say, AI, come on, there we go. Way to bring it home, baby. Way to bring it home,
Yes.
But I don't want to be on the other side of that where I'm like, oh no, ay.
We've been
Oh man, we totally, we really messed that one up, So there's a lot of positivity, as long as I feel that we all have a part in it, and that's hard to say. It's like we are the world. That never really got anywhere. Remember the old song, "We Are the World" with everybody,
Yes.
all the singers. They try to put that together, and that I don't want to be a naysayer. So with the positive aspect, AI will bring new positive things to us. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So what do you say?
Bob's like, nah.
I'm so hopeful.
Nah.
Wow. I think that whatever happens, we must include people in the process across the full spectrum. I think we need to trust our young people, right? Tell them what it is. They're the ones that are going to have to live with this the longest. So as things evolve, be transparent about what it is or is not, because if it goes south, we won't be around to care. So we got to really make sure that we owe it to them to make sure that we
Yeah.
don't just put profits above everything, that whatever it is their choice. If they choose something, then that's their choice, but don't force a choice upon them without them fully understanding what it actually means, right? Because like this with all technologies will require a course correction. That's just what it is because it's new, so I am just really encouraged by what I'm seeing. When you give people information, generally they find their way, so
Absolutely.
I believe
Absolutely.
that. So
Well, let me go catch my young ones before they grow up too fast and start using AI machine learning for whatever the hell they're going to use it for. So with that, AyAyAyAi. Thank you, Bobby.
Have a
Thanks,
good
Bobby.
See you guys next
See you
time.
later.
All right. Take care.